Hello everyone, once again, Mark from New Life Guitars. That was Can't Help Loving That Man of Mine, and that segues into I just can't help loving this guitar that I've just got. So they say Christmas only comes once a year, but at New Life Guitars Christmas comes about 50 or 60 times a year. So this is a beautiful guitar I've just received this week. This is none other than a Kohno, a Masaru Kohno from 1965. It's his number 3. So if you know a little bit of the history of Kohno, he's probably the most celebrated of all the luthiers, the Japanese luthiers of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and his legacy lived on in his son as well. So very famous guitar maker, and in no small part because in 1967, Kohno won the international prize in Belgium for the one of the best classical guitars in the world that he had made that year. So that competition really put Kohno on the map, and it really just catapulted him into stardom at that time. So the prices of his instruments went up, and his career was just he was just a luminary in the guitar world of Japan and really the whole world. And his instruments are very sought after even today. So this is from the 60s, and I must admit I'm quite taken by the instruments of the 1960s more recently. And there's a distinct change from the 60s into the 70s and into the 80s with many of the Japanese makers. And into the 70s, their craft was starting to mature, and they started to make bigger voiced instruments and grander sounding guitars. But in the 60s, they were still making guitars that just had harken back to the guitars of the 20s and 30s and 40s, the classic Spanish guitars of the day, because the Japanese makers that were learning the craft in Spain back in the late 50s and early 60s really aimed to continue the legacy of the Spanish tradition. So if you've ever played an old guitar, like an old Hauser or any other Spanish guitar, that they just have a slightly more parlor-like voice, that they're not as big as what they became in the 70s and 80s. So this guitar is a little bit like that. This is built with that slightly parlor-esque sensibilities. It's by no means a quiet guitar, and this is exactly as I received it, but it's still got a marvelous voice. But it's just, if you know what I mean, it's just, I had a Kohno number 15 from 1974 some years back, and it had a slightly bigger, it was more of a concert grade guitar. But this is a more refined and it's just got a slightly more subtle kind of a sound, a more intimate sound. And this guitar, it's not unlike the Nakade that I presented, the Rokutaru Nakade, the B3, which I still have, which is a slightly smaller guitar. I think I mentioned it. So this one has a 647mm scale length. The Nakade has a 640mm scale, but this guitar also has a 50mm nut like the Nakade does. So it's an immensely playable guitar. So it's just very comfortable in the hands. The neck is exceedingly comfortable. And when I get a guitar, I don't rush into working on it. I really like to take time just to sit with it for numbers of weeks and really get to know it and let it speak to me as to what it's needing. And I start imagining the string choice I'm going to put on it. I already know some of the things I'm going to do. I think it really needs a refret. The frets are very flat. The saddle is a bit low. The action is lovely, but I want to just improve the fingerboard quite a bit, get the frets up a bit higher, which will then enable me to raise the saddle a bit, and that will give the guitar more volume and more presence. So just sitting as it is, it's just a lovely, warm, articulate sound. I don't know how old these strings are. They look quite old, but I don't even rush into changing the strings. I like to sit with the old strings for a while and really just get to know the guitar. It's like getting to know a person. This is like the first date. You could have a few dates before you start working on changing them. Not that you want to change your partner. You've got to let them be who they are. And it's the same with guitars. You need to let them tell you what they want to be and what they want to become. So I'm starting to hear and anticipate what this guitar wants to become. It's just a lovely, even tone. Tone, so I'm going to really enjoy just getting to know this one, and I'll start working on it within the next few weeks. Lovely cedar top, beautiful rosewood back and sides, and it's got some of the battle scars of, you know, some 60 something years of life, but it's just a marvellous guitar, and I'm very thankful to have obtained it. And I'll look forward to being able to present it to you once it's been worked on. So thank you once again. I'm just going to go and start playing this guitar for another little session. But we'll catch you on the next time around. So take care. We'll see you then. Bye.